Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's California State Library webinar hosted by InfoPeople. This webinar is part 3 of the California Library Literacy Services series. And today's topic is Family Literacy 101, From Flyers to Food. And I am now happy to turn the webinar over to Amy Prevedal.
Thank you so much, Mary, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to be exploring the factors that make for a successful family literacy program, and this is the third of 4 topics that we have webinars on, and we hope that next time, along with today's presentation, that you'll participate. And then on June 4th, we're going to be doing family literacy on the wild e-frontier. And Kim Noriega and I, she's from San Diego Public Library's Read San Diego program, will be examining perspectives and strategic things that adult learners can use to raise their digitally savvy families. For today's webinar, there are a couple housekeeping notes that we really have a strong desire for you to ask questions, and we're explicitly going to ask a few times during the webinar to help us brainstorm. And there are a bunch of resources at the end of the webinar, and the webinar will be archived. And in addition to those, we're going to be emailing you via the CLLS listserv a bunch of documents that are either PDF or Word documents, PowerPoints, that we actually need a link to. It's a long story, but you won't be able to get them on the computer, but you can look forward to an email inbox that overflows with ideas. In today's webinar, we're going to show you examples of 3 programs that went over so well in the libraries of South San Francisco and the Fresno County Library. They're called Literacy, Food, and Fitness, and Learning Together with Loteria and Piñata, and a science club. So we're going to respond to issues and questions that you brought up on the listserv in February as we discuss these 3 successful programs. A lot of people had questions about how do you actually create a program? What's a structure I can use? What kind of materials or research come in handy to lean on? A big one that came up again and again and then again are the challenges of staff time and of distance, and how can we serve families as well as we can given these 2 obstacles. And then a section on program marketing, flyers, materials, things that entice people to come into our programs and that communicate effectively to adult learners with families. So I'm going to introduce you now to our presenters, and I am just so delighted to introduce Deborah Bernal. And Deborah let me know that she has the privilege to serve as the literacy coordinator for the Fresno County Public Library. She brings years of experience developing partnerships and working with a variety of communities in different sectors. And Deborah has worked in organizations that are nonprofits, private businesses, the public sector. And in those roles as a private sector worker, she managed the day-to-day activities for a low-income telecommunications program, and it took her to 19 counties in Central California. So she can probably name more counties than anybody in the state of California. So I'm delighted to bring someone like Deborah with such vibrancy, and she brings that to her work, and it will become obvious to you as the hour goes on. Thank you. I will also introduce Pat Jarvis, and Pat works at the San Francisco Public Library. South San Francisco, sorry, Pat. I worked there with her, and I don't even remember the name, so that's impressive. Pat has a BA in Liberal Studies. She began her work in adult literacy at San Francisco State University's volunteer tutoring program while she was completing her teaching credential. And she also has a nutrition educator certificate. Pat has worked with Project Read, North San Mateo County for the past 26 years. So the program serves beyond the city of South San Francisco. And Pat is responsible for Families for Literacy, for the Mobile Literacy Program, for Health Literacy, and Financial Literacy programs at Project Read. And you'll start to get the idea right away that the program in South City just brings in all of these wonderful, relevant, useful programs for adult learners and their families. And Pat is right there in the midst of it all, making it happen. And so I am just so delighted to have her with all of her experience, because we've named this webinar Family Literacy 101, and it really is a chance to ask about starting up from the very beginning, because Pat has gone through that process when family literacy was brand new in the 90s in our library-based program. So there's so much that you can ask her and learn from her. So thank you so much for being here, Deborah and Pat. It's just a fabulous combination. And that brings us to Project Read, where Pat works, and the family literacy goals for that program. So I'm wondering if you would get started with these, Pat.
Okay, thank you. So the family literacy goals are to help parents improve their own reading and writing skills first and foremost. So it is a program that centers on the adult learner. And we aim to create a rich and diverse home library for our families with free children's books, quality, wonderful books, and that's the most fun part of the program. And we encourage sharing books in the home as an activity to be enjoyed by the whole family. And a big part of it is to welcome and introduce families to the public library and assist them in using the many resources that our libraries offer. And also to empower parents as their child's first and foremost teacher. And to help parents develop skills and strategies to prepare their children to be successful in school. But the idea is not to teach, to teach adults to teach their children to read. It's just to really provide a rich learning environment for the whole family.
Thank you so much, Pat. And I think that last point and your first point is very important for people, especially who are new to the library literacy programs, that we are focused through adult learners to work with families. So we're not teaching children to read. We're concerned about really supporting the whole family and helping adult learners do whatever they want to do with their families to reach their literacy goals. So we're not directly, we're not primarily teaching children, if that sounds okay. Let's take a look. Pat, you've done an amazing program about literacy, food, and fitness, as you can see. And we're going to look at that as one example that you can transfer to many different kinds of programs. So what would you like to say about this, Pat?
Okay, I guess it was around 2008 when a lot of attention was being paid to the childhood obesity crisis. And so I had a lot of learners asking about how, to help their children eat right and be healthy. And that's when I went back to school to get my nutrition education credentials so that I knew what I was talking about. And I used a library storytime model because there are children's books about any topic you can think of. And there are wonderful, wonderful books about food and physical activity. So I took that library storytime model and just built it all around healthy eating. And Kaiser Community Grant funded us to create this manual. So it's kind of a storytime manual that has information on nutrition for the presenter, as well as lesson ideas for library story times. And it's been very successful because everybody loves food. And I found it works really well for older children as well as younger children. So it's a whole family activity. And then the manual is available. We have it in PDF, and the format is the same for each lesson, so that you can just take it and use it the way it is, or you can pick and choose different activities. But so there's all different, and I've done it in different ways, where I've done just one lesson or I've done the whole series. And it's really wonderful for parents to see their children eating healthy foods, and kids really love to prepare the food. We have, the manual has handouts in Spanish and English for parents about what children should be eating and how to help them choose the healthy foods. And so the entire manual will be available to download if you are interested, but I've had lots of luck. And so, as I said, the program is for parents and children together. And so the nutritional information is really targeted for the adult during the program, but the children participate and they have a wonderful time with the activities and pre-literacy skills that they learn, and it's hands-on learning for them. And so each lesson has a comprehensive array of materials and activities that you can pick and choose from. And there's the lesson preview, the background information, so that's nutritional education information. And every lesson has a book that it's built around the theme of that lesson. And so, and also we include, like in library story times, always have music and poetry and finger plays. And then the physical activity and craft activities, and most importantly is the snack activity.
Well, let's take a look at all those things, Pat. So here we have the children's books already.
Right. So as I said, each lesson has children's books, and there are many, many more that you'll find in your libraries with the topic about food. And it's a wonderful topic too. Everybody loves it. So, and it's very important, but we always do the book giveaway so that it kind of reinforces the message of healthy eating and activity. And we have books from preschool to third grade. And so the family reading increases the skills of the adults and children, and it enhances family closeness. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a library story time without the finger play. I remember when I started, what is a finger play? But music, poetry, and finger plays really help the younger child develop pre-literacy skills and phonemic awareness.
Pat, what is finger play, by the way?
I know, right? What is finger play? It's where you use your fingers, like when you do the itsy bitsy spider.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I think.
Okay. I think too. I just wanted to clear that up after years and years.
Right. And then it's, I believe, a good idea whenever you have children involved in programming to have a physical activity because they get a little antsy sitting there and when you're discussing nutrition and reading books. So, and of course, it goes with the theme of to be a healthy person is to exercise 60 minutes a day. So we can get some of those minutes done right there in the library. And
Pat,
so every lesson.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are
No,
you in the same room all the time, like adults and children together for all of your for the
for
library
this
model?
program, that's a good
Yeah.
question. For this program, yes.
Uh-huh.
We are. So
Okay.
yeah, the information, the nutritional information is just given in little snippets during the programming.
Okay.
They're like a little bright idea. Oh, this is a good idea to get your child to help participate in cooking, and maybe they'll try new foods, that kind of thing.
Okay. Great.
And then the exploratory activity is just an activity that involves the parents and the children so that they can take the theme and make it their own. So, for example, you can have food models and of different foods, and they're even included in the manual, that you can have participants sort into food groups and that kind of thing, just so they're doing a hands-on activity.
Okay. And Pat, so the manual has all sorts of examples of exploratory activities. And then if you moved outside the topic, out of the manual to other topics of interest, can you think of another example of what an exploratory activity is? Just to put you on the spot right away.
Yeah, thank you. I can think of, I've done some programming around financial literacy with families. And so the exploratory activity would be, maybe discussing wants and needs with parents and children and having them, brainstorm what's a want and what's a need, and giving them examples like, we all need to drink water, but we may love to drink soda, but you need water and you just want soda, something like that, just so that take the theme and explore it.
Okay. And I love how you are just there are just so many examples from all sorts of interesting topics too that you've done in family literacy, because it's all about what families want.
Yeah, exactly. The families have expressed, wanting to teach their children about saving money. So try to build a program, a story time, because there's children's books about money too.
Excellent. Okay. And even more excellent, here we have craft activities.
Right. And the families so enjoy the craft activities. And as you can see, this is a bones calcium theme, and so we're making skeletons.
All in a day's work.
So, yes, right. And that really helps the children develop language skills, because you're talking about your project and build motor coordination at the same time.
Okay. It strikes me as just having this space to just talk and do stuff, which doesn't appear in life all the time.
No, not too often. And of course, the snack activity is the highlight. And so with family literacy programming, food is a huge part and an important part. And it really can make the difference for people being able to attend programming. If people are working many jobs and daycare, school, people come hungry. And so it's really important to offer nutritionally sound food so that people are getting a good meal or snack. And so I was always very worried that the children wouldn't eat healthy food, but when they're hungry, they definitely do. And when they participate in making it, and then they can learn so much about measuring and all the things that go in with cooking and reading a recipe. So it's always just the best part of the activities. But we have, food can be an emotionally laden issue too, because you don't want to, pile on the guilt. And there's many cultural meanings around food that you need to pay attention to, but it's a wonderful opportunity for families to share recipes and ideas what they do at home. So it builds a lot of community, the food
That is
aspect.
beautiful. Yeah, and it really is all about community because it represents who you are, where you're coming from culturally, what your home literacies are like, and it's really affirming, by sharing recipes and discussing food, you're really learning so much that's valuable from other people and sharing what's valuable to you too. So, do you ever use foods that just on the recommendation of particular learners that come from a culture and say, oh, we should have this for our snack? Or does that sound like a separate program?
No, as a matter of fact, when we did programming at the farmers market, and I'll always remember that one of the learners, I can't remember the food. It was an Asian vegetable, and she found it and she brought it over, and I think it was good for diabetes or something. Oh, I wish I could remember. And so we discussed it and we talked about recipes, and that was really wonderful. And we all learned something, except for then I forgot.
But that just really means there is a place for you in, this is your community, and food really is very powerful that way. I heard a comment the other day, which is that some programs have developed community partnerships with organizations or stores, food, restaurants, grocery stores, to say, hey, how about if you send some delicious food our way? And I think that's a very worthy endeavor, so long as the food is up to really healthy standards. We don't want, we're modeling all the time, and who wants to serve free Coke when it's better just to serve free water, that kind of thing. And this is where food, I realize I'm saying it now, it can sound judgmental, and it can sound, you use the word guilt laden. So it's funny how rich and amazing it is for learning and discussion. And then, sometimes I wonder about myself, like, oh, well, what if we love Coca-Cola? I don't know. So I think it's something just to be very thoughtful about. Anyway, I am sort of curious. We have some questions here. But I'm wondering if people who are participating, and we can't see anybody, only our dogs at home. But I'm curious if you have really hit upon snacks and food that have really hit the spot, like that really are convenient but popular and delicious and healthy. So if you start typing those into the chat box, I will certainly share that with everyone who is listening today. So let's go ahead, and we have some questions for you, Pat, that have come in. And a question is, how did you determine that the families you were serving were low literate? And were they already adult learners who had registered to be tutored in your program? So who is it who comes to family literacy programs, Pat?
Now, that's a very good question. And yes, originally, we served the adults in our program with children. Okay. And then we did begin to do outreach to grow our program. And we did outreach at local schools, preschools, and Head Start sites to bring in more learners. And they would go through the intake process and become a Project READ student. And then we have had some small groups also that qualify for the Families for Literacy. But the best advice I can give for recruitment is to have an adult learner help.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I've been very fortunate to have adult learners that are great spokespeople to help with recruitment.
Okay, that's lovely. And there was a very similar question on the CLS listserv this morning and last night. And I think that the response there was on, like, for counting adult learners in your program, they need to have gone through the intake process. And adult learners are the door into family literacy with adult learners and their families. So here we have another question about the structure of the program, Pat. And the question is, so the facilitator of your programs the facilitator is not reading out loud to everyone. Are the adult learners reading to the children during these programs?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So these programs are really modeled on the library story time. So yes, the facilitator does read the book in a library, setting with the, children sitting on the floor and the adults sitting in chairs. But so the adults are listening to the story with their child. And then I would give the same book to the families to, for the free giveaway to take home.
Okay. And so the reading that's happening is your reading, and it's this really fabulously fun experience. And then they get to take that book home with their own families. So that it's not about the adults in that room right then and there reading to their child.
No.
But the family literacy program is about all these topics that involve reading, but there are a lot of things to do during the program, huh?
Right.
I do want to point out that the list with all the bullet points are really the many activities you can do in a program. And one of them does involve all these wonderful books too. But then there are all these other bullet points that you can pick and choose from too. Here's another structure question. And we're going to have a whole section on structure. So this is a wonderful segue to, ta-da! I call this Bright Idea Break, and I don't mean that sarcastically. I was saying earlier that somehow bright idea now seems kind of like a negative thing. I didn't mean to be snarky at all, because we're going to have great ideas together. So a question that's come up is, where and when and how often do you have these gatherings with parents? How is it coordinated? Does it involve school staff too? And, Deborah, you can jump in too when these fit the bill in what you're doing with your program. Pat, I am curious if you could answer this in response, given that we've just talked about literacy, food, and fitness.
Yeah, so that program
Mm-hmm.
I did as a monthly program. So there would be one story time a month, and I would do one lesson a month.
Okay.
I have done it, during the summer. I've done it in a weekly program too. So it really depends on, your program and what works to get your families there.
Okay. Where do you hold the events?
Okay, so we in the library, and so you can kind of see in some of the pictures that we have a big auditorium that we use, and we're very fortunate too because we have a wonderful kitchen at the library. But I have done these lessons on our mobile literacy van too, and gone out, as I said, to farmers markets and schools and other sites too, and done lessons.
Okay, wonderful. And
Amy,
ahead,
I'd like to share, if people are kind of struggling and they're trying to figure out where do we find possible learners and they want to think of strategies, places like housing authority complexes where people are living that need a hand up. So places where you would find people, schools in neighborhoods where they're a Title I school, those areas. Find out what the community center is near that. When we first started, when I first started in this role, we did a lot of stuff outside of the library to bring people into the library because we knew the community wasn't coming in. So we went out to them and met them where they were at.
That's right. Thank you. And we're going to talk more about that too. And Pat has the mobile literacy van, and then Deborah has the bookmobile, which is a way. Well, anyway, we're gonna get into a lot of how to reach learners too. And I want to get back to this idea of food, of course. And some people have written in some fabulous things that I'm so appreciative, because it's kind of like at home, like, oh, what are we going to make for dinner? Here are some ideas that have worked well in programs. And someone wrote in, and I'm sorry, it's all anonymous, but I say you are all brilliant. I'd read your name if I could. Fruit yogurt parfait, popcorn, make and tell stone soup, along with that book. That's a real goodie. Fruit and vegetable smoothies are easy, versatile, and nutritious. So I want to come visit you in your program. Oh, and here's make butter in a jar, because it's so delicious and it gets the shakes out of kids too, right? And then someone here took small flour tortillas, put a little whipped cream on them, added banana slices and strawberry slices, and rolled them up. The kids loved them, and the adults love them too, I can tell you. Wow, someone got a kitchen. It says, kitchen is a game changer. That is awesome. It is, oh, wait a minute. Is it specifically for programs? Which kitchen is a game changer? Oh,
maybe the kitchen, I was saying that we have a really nice kitchen at our library.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
But as I said, I have taken this out on the road and, taken blenders for smoothies, electric frying pans so you can make do, but a kitchen is wonderful.
Oh, it is. So here someone says a family potluck, in that families bring a dish from their family tradition to share. They compile a cookbook of the recipes for everyone. So folks, this is fabulous family literacy. I'm so happy to read these. And then what else do we have about, English muffin pizzas with different toppings. And that sounds nice and active too. Okay, so it says here, is there a way we can access the program manual that Kaiser prepared? And I will tell you that Kaiser funded this program, and then our friend here, Pat Jarvis, and fabulous participants in the Project Read program put it together and wrote it, right, Pat? And so it just, I want to underscore in talking with Pat and with Deborah, there are organizations that down the road, they provide some funding when you have a topic in common with them. For example, the financial literacy, the health and food literacy. And so making those community partnerships are so critical and enrich your program tremendously. And the downside of that is the time that it requires getting to know people and going to meetings. It pays off, and it's a price to pay. So we're going to email that the food family, hello, Pat, the literacy, food, and fitness manual to the CLLS listserv, because we don't have a click to link it that you just click on it and there it is. So watch out for that today in the CLLS listserv. And then we will be sending all the documents from today's webinar to the State Library. And it sounds like they're putting together a whole brand new website. And this will definitely go on that website when it is complete. So you'll be able to find it down the road there too. Okie dokie. So many good questions here. Oh, wow. And this is a great one for both Pat and Deborah. Do you have an idea of the cost per meeting for all the materials, food, instructors' time, etc.? And maybe we could just make this really quick with a ballpark, and this could be a very good discussion for the online listserv. So if you want to bark out a number, go ahead. And otherwise, I'm writing it down of things to communicate on the listserv that we can ask each other there too, just because we have a great webinar lined up for you and want to hit the highlights.
Oh my goodness, no.
Okay. Deborah, do you have like one number and then we'll move on? Otherwise, we're going to take this question very seriously and move it to the listserv so we can answer it with a fair amount of time that it deserves.
So what I tell my team that is happening with families that are actively in our 5-week series and are involved with our program, we're going to make it a minimum investment of $100 per family in that family.
Okay.
And that's, we're building their library collection in their home.
Okay.
So.
All right. So that's a
so
ballpark.
that's
Yeah. Thank you, Deborah. So we're going to, people have written in about some outreach that they do and questions about language and outreach, but we have a section on outreach, so we're going to get to that. In the meantime, let's talk about learning together, which is very exciting.
So
Deborah,
what we
does
did
loteria mean?
Yes, loteria. Loteria is Mexican bingo. Many families are already familiar with loteria, and if you play the lotto, you might have seen loteria tickets. That's how much it's become a part of the culture of mainstream American culture. It's Mexican bingo. Many families play it together during the holidays or at church fundraisers. It's really colorful. It has words and numbers. And this is a game that families play, teaching their kids to count without even realizing it.
Great. That's beautiful.
And we used it as a cultural hook. We used it as a way to get people who may not have seen a space for them in our local libraries. Hey, we want you here. We want you to come in to our library. We are coming for your childhood memories to build a memory with your family now.
Beautiful. Thank you. Hey, let's see what's next about what makes this successful. You've already mentioned many things. What makes a family literacy program successful, do you think, Deborah?
So I will share with you guys what we did with families in the winter in December 2018, because it was winter break. And we recognized that a lot of the families that we're serving, they don't have the ability to travel somewhere exotic. So what we did is we did piñatas at one of our local branches that had a cement patio and closed-in patio where we could have the piñatas be there overnight. We set out all the supplies. And one of the things that was important for us to do as a literacy team was to train ourselves not to help and do help that isn't helping. So this was really the parents working with the children. Because folks in literacy, we're very helpful, right? We want to help people. We want to serve people. But this is something that they're going to do as a family. They're going to have the memory. And many of you even know what a piñata is. You know, you go buy them, you go to the stores, you've been to a child's birthday. Well, people may not know how to make a piñata. But what we found is a lot of parents knew how to make piñatas. It's super simple: flour, water, pieces of newspaper, a 24-hour rest period. You come back and you decorate your piñata. It was so nice to see families negotiating what designs they were going to do, because kids wanted to do these elaborate piñatas and parents were like, well, I don't know. And then sometimes parents wanted to do these elaborate piñatas and the kids were not. And in between the piñata making process, we played loteria as a pilot program to see if it was interesting to people and see if people wanted to come back. Here are some pictures of people working on their piñatas. We were there for several hours so people could come in shifts. So the first day that a family showed up, parents had to be present. The first day that parents showed up, they would decorate their piñata. We set out cups and gave them like the mixture. I called it cake batter, or it's batter. And then they would put the newspapers on these piñatas, let them dry overnight. So it taught them patience. Parents really were involved and they didn't have to worry about cleaning it up because we were cleaning it up. So it was neat to have people do this. Like they're just, I I wouldn't do this at home because it's so messy. Oh, I'm so glad that you guys put it out here. And people brought because we had tissue paper colors, but they wanted to bring other colors so that they would have more colors.
Wow.
Um,
Okay. And it sounds like it's a place where people can just be together and play together and learn together. And the mom's not picking up is a real highlight.
yes. And if you go back to that slide, Amy, I put it there so that people would see it is messy, it is noisy, it is fun.
Do what they do.
I don't want to, yes, I don't want to say, oh, it's going to be smooth and everything's going to go. This is something that is fun, and kids come back because we have people who came to our event in December and have been coming to the library now as a result of this.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What about this slide here, Deborah?
Okay, so like I shared, when we did the piñatas, we were in between the piñatas drying, we did Loteria. When we found out in Fresno that Families for Literacy funding was coming out, I designed a program that brought Loteria as a hook. So we have a 5-week series that is currently taking place at the moment, we have it in 4 different sites throughout the community, throughout the Fresno County service area. And what we do is people come and they play Loteria, which is Mexican bingo, as I stated before. The previous slides has some of the books that are prizes and some of the books that are given to the families that are participating and the children that are participating. This slide that we're currently on, this was ran through with volunteers. The Chicano Latino Alumni Association at Fresno State has taken over running the program, and we're there just to support them. And it was so neat. I've shared this with a couple people. It was so neat to see families hear from these retired professionals who look like them, who came from stories like their own, say, I'm one of 8 who graduated from college. Or these stories, and especially with the gentleman being up there saying this, that was very powerful for the families there. They felt like, oh, I can do it too. And this is one of their ideas. The literary genre stuff was put up by one of the volunteers. She was a retired school teacher. She thought it was important for families to know, like, there is so many books out there. You may not like one particular book. It's okay to pick up another book.
Beautiful. And what about this? It's so cool. I love the card.
So part of the 5-week series is the first week, we're just having people coming out and enjoying, getting to know each other, forming and norming the group. The second week, we've been giving families the Reach for the Stars goal chart, which is laminated, and they can use a dry erase marker and create their own goals. We ask families, do your children see you reading? If they don't, if they say no, we say it's okay, but moving forward, you can do it. You can start a reading in your house. You could start a family reading time, and they may make that their goal, or they might have another goal if they already read, like, I'm going to read a book that has the same theme as my children are reading at school, or what have you. Okay. Again, it's interesting because we have people that have goals that have to do with food and including more vegetables in their meals, or having more time where I don't use my phone and I'm engaged with my children. It's interesting to see what they decide to do. Having this be on your refrigerator at home and you checking off when it's happening as a family has been really interesting for us to hear back the stories that the families bring back. Mom didn't check out the chart, or, we're all doing so good. And then they get a chance to change their goals once they achieve their goals. Okay. Another thing that we're doing with the Loteria is we're asking families to, as homework, as a family and individually, what Loteria card would you create if you had the power to? What's missing? And what you see on the right-hand side of your screen is an actual Loteria card that somebody made. And she happens to be half Japanese and half Mexican. And it was just beautiful. And the textile, made it 3-dimensional. It's just a beautiful card. And they all get to share what they would do.
Thank you very much, Deborah. So we've come after that fabulous Loteria and Piñata example, to another bright idea about time and distance and the challenges that they pose for services. And I do want to start off by saying, you know, it sounds like Deborah has really been able to tap into some great volunteer sources to save time for staff people. And a question that was asked in the survey on the listserv was about, well, what if we had teenage tutors working with parents and children? Or what about utilizing teens as tutors to tutor children? And so I just want to put it out there here that we are focused on family literacy through the lens of the adult learner. And we know that being able to train and work with volunteer teenage tutors would be, it sounds like a whole other program. So I'm not sure I would step in that direction. There just might not be the time and expertise. It's not really family literacy for our CLLS programs if the adult is not the primary person who comes to us and involves their family. And a lot of what we've seen here with Deborah's programs and Pat's programs is a question, it responds to a question about, you know, we do not have young children. Learners in our program do not have young children. And so we've seen some lovely examples that involve family members of all ages. And you'll see a lot of pictures of smaller kids because traditionally, that's what library literacy programs did the work for. They were working with young children and parents. And now, fortunately, since those children grow up, we can now serve them as well if their adult learner in the family is in our program. So as far as staff time, distance, challenges, we've seen very hands-on program that involve materials and activities to grapple with. And we're going to see another one that requires physically present families. And I'm just curious, if distance is a real challenge in your program, what to do? I'm just curious, what do you think about that, Pat? Do you have some experience working long distance?
Yes. So one thing that I did that I served families who weren't able to attend our programs was through the mail, the snail mail. I always try to meet families during their intake and, get a, learn about them at that time. And then one of the ideas I got from another program, I have to say years ago, was that I send every child in our program a birthday book and a card. So at least every child in the program gets a book and a card throughout the year. And so it's important to meet with the learner in the beginning to get an idea of their children's interests. Another thing I did was I used a Ladybug magazine, which was really for children 5 and under. And the Ladybug magazines are still available. They have a Baby Bug magazine that's kind of a board magazine, so it's for babies up to maybe a year old or 2 years old. And then they have a science magazine called Cricket or something. They're all bug themed, and they're really great magazines. They have articles for parenting articles in them, as well as things to read with children and activities to do with them. So I would make a lesson plan, and I would send it to the magazine and the lesson plan to the tutors, the Families for Literacy tutors, so that they could use them in their lessons.
Okay,
and, that worked pretty well.
That's very lovely. So materials get there, and since they're adult learners in your program, that means that they can meet with a volunteer tutor or they can participate in the small groups you offer. And so that's a really important entree into being able to work with adult learners who maybe don't have the time or are in a faraway place, but you have another connection to them through their tutors. I want to keep going here. We have about 10 minutes left, and I'm just delighted with all of the input that we've received so far. And so the issue of time and distance, I will recap a little bit about thinking in terms, as Deborah can, with the bookmobile that goes to the really, really rural areas of Fresno County, and the mobile literacy van that can travel all around North San Mateo County, just as an extension of your physical space. I don't think that there's a magic answer, but I'm wondering if anyone wants to type in how they can work with time and distance, despite time and distance, let's put it that way.
And Amy, I just want to reiterate
yes.
Elmo is another
Oh.
thing that you can use with families. Like, for example, a lot of times this is a family's first time being able to share with another family that's going through the same things. Like, we had somebody yesterday who, for the first time, she was able to say out loud, "I don't know how to read, and I felt inadequate most of my adult life as a parent." And you want to honor the story, hear it out, but you also want to use the Elmo technique, which Elmo, Elmo's friendly. You say, enough, let's move on. They recognize it's somebody they recognize, and they understand, like, we're trying to meet the timeline of we're here for an hour together. We only have an hour to share. And that is very important for parents and caregivers, that you honor their time and that you remind them, hey, this is 1 hour that we're asking you not to be on your phone, not to be distracted, but to be present in the moment with your family.
Thank you, Deborah. I love how you explicitly talk about the role of phones in that special time at the library. It's like, no, it's not time for the phone now. So pull out the Elmo. Start on time, end on time. Pull out the Elmo if you need to. So here we have a question that came up, and it's really a very good question for all of our programs, as these questions are, and about the question, are the programs in Spanish? Are they in English? And we can serve non-native speakers who are Spanish speakers or Hmong speakers or Punjabi speakers, but they have to be proficient in English. And that's actually, if we go to the actual law that governs our programs and provides funding to our libraries, we have to be providing our services to proficient English speakers. So that's a really big topic, because we know that there are so many non-native speakers in California, and there's so much need for literacy in all languages. So please be mindful that you really need to determine, well, who's proficient in English, and how can we systematize that in our program. All right, there's a question that came up, and I'm going to ask someone to rephrase it, because it's asking about what item from Costco wholesale does my family qualify for with your family literacy webinar. So I'm not sure what it means. I'm having a slow time cognitively this morning. So if you are able to retype that in, then I'd love to be able to share the answer, or ask Deborah or ask Pat. Another resource that came in, it's called Resource Area for Teachers, RAFT, in San Jose. It sells super inexpensive, simple STEM project kits. And that's what? Science, technology, math. What's the E stand for?
Engineering.
Thank you. So they have these great kits in San Jose at RAFT, and they have, where did that go? Yeah, they use them for quick STEM program while at their library. So I want to put that out as a resource, and I'll include that on the list that we mail out. And here's a question again, proficient English speakers, what? We understood it was able to do intake in English. Boy, I think if you can do an intake in English, that's pretty darn proficient. So I don't think that those are conflicting ideas. I think that's a great way to see who's proficient, have them do an intake in English. Thank you so much for that. So we have here the Science Club in South San Francisco. And Pat, I think that we're going to move through this very quickly so that we can get to those outreach materials and that bright idea toward the end of the Science Club. How would you say that Science Club is different from or the same as the literacy, food, and fitness manual that you have?
Well, it's very, very similar. And I started the Science Club because my family literacy families wanted activities for the whole family. So it's very much like Deborah's Pinata program, where the whole family meets together and does the activity together. And so it's very similar. I just find a book that will fit a theme, and then find a science experiment that the parents and children can do together. And I love this STEM kits from Raft. That would work really well. And I thought maybe this would be a place that the program that had teen volunteers, I think teen volunteers could be very helpful, because science experiments can be messy. And there'll be lots for them to do.
Excellent. Yeah, and it has specifically been asked in the survey, how do we serve older children and how do we involve those older kids? So here's a nice answer. That doesn't happen often in life. Okay, so let's take a look at all the things that older kids can understand conceptually that maybe younger kids can't. So that's pretty cool. Let's look at this bright idea here, which is the topic of program marketing that communicates effectively and entices people to come to the library, to join your program, and to be part of a lovely learning community. And a couple really great questions have already come into our chat box. One is, someone here goes to battered women's shelters, to teen parent centers, to low-income state preschools to attract people, to do outreach. That's the word. And also, someone wanted to know, where was that question? It was so good. I'm so sorry. Oh yes, the idea of the language that you use in a flyer, because we have low literacy adults that we serve, but that might not attract anybody to come to the library and ask, hey, where's the low literacy person? Because I'm that person. Because we all know that there are emotional issues and shame and so forth. So one question is, what kind of language would you use instead of that? And we're going to show you some flyers here, and we're going to come back to the Bright Idea page. And in the Learning Together flyer, we're not seeing any language about, your reading level.
Go back, Amy, because they can see where it says, come have fun and strengthen your literacy skills with Loteria and other activities and games. That's how we, so it's, you don't have to, and the way we approach it and my team approaches it is we are always looking for volunteers. That's how we approach it. We never make the assumption that someone would be a learner. We make the assumption that they would be always a volunteer. We say, oh, we're always looking for volunteers because we help adults learn how to read or improve their reading skills. Okay. And that's how we approach it.
Beautiful. What do you think about that, Pat? What kind of language would attract learners in your experience?
Yeah, that's really interesting, the volunteer. I've never thought of that. Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, I just try to focus on what the learner wants. They want to help their child do well in school. So that, and just to say, do you want to help reading and writing better instead of using the word literacy? Because I think that can be confusing to people.
Okay. You know, another good hook is saying, do you want to get your GED? Because then you know that they are working on their skills, and maybe they're really, really low skills, but it brings them into the program. You can find out, you can refer them out, or realize they need help with basic skills. It's a really rich, big topic in itself, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness in that question. Let's go back to this bright idea for our last, minute or two. And what do you think about getting families to come? Maybe Pat, you could answer it, and then Deborah, you can answer that. And then we're going to call it another day in the life of literacy. What do you think?
Well, the two strategies that have worked the best for me are involving the tutors, because sometimes it really helps to have the tutor attend with their learner, because if the learner's not comfortable or unfamiliar, maybe they're unfamiliar with library programming. So that has been very successful, and the tutors generally love it too, so that's fun. And the other strategy is to have the spokesperson, a learner who is just a really strong spokesperson for the program, make the phone calls and really stay in touch with the learners, and see what their needs are, see when they can meet, what will help them come, arranging carpooling, that kind of thing can be very helpful.
Thank you so much. So kind of asking people yet again, you can never go wrong if you ask people. Deborah, how would you like to respond to this before we have to go?
So a lot like Pat, it's people knowing that they're not going to be away from their kids, that their kids are going to be, this is an opportunity. Because some of our rural areas, because there's not as much opportunities for childcare and children being in after-school programs, etc. This actually gives the learner, the adult learner, an opportunity to actually participate in literacy, because they may not be able to be away from their kids for an hour or 2 hours every week. And this, having it be the whole family, allows them to come and be an active learner.
Okay, and that connection, like just the connections that we form are really what our programs are great at doing and what we need to do. And so if you're going door to door, canvassing an apartment complex, you're creating that first connection, and it takes time from meeting people to having them come to the library to maintaining a relationship and developing lifelong learning cultures in your programs. I want to say one more thing, which is the marketing that is here. There's a resource called Catch a Fire in the resources, and they helped create lovely flyers that are so beautifully done for the Project Read program. And maybe you can contact them too and see what they're up to. They donate professional skills like publicity. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And I will pull out the Elmo and say enough, let's move on, and look forward to some more discussion and some resources on the listserv until they show up on the State Library's website. So thank you so much, Pat Jarvis, and thank you so much, Deborah Bernal. I love how you're so generous with your time and excellent ideas and experience. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this today and taking time to join us. Have a wonderful day.